Welcome to the Imagination Factory. I'm Sarah.
I'm Keith.
So, what's the plan? What are we going to do?
What we've been doing for the last couple of episodes is I would say approaching an illustration from different points of view.
So, this here was what we actually finished working on in the last Twitch edition, but this actually started from an inverse, right? So, Keith started it with dark and finding light within it, and then from there we did we did the opposite. So this was kind of how it started. And when we were looking at it, we started to think to ourselves, this feels like it could be connected to our bigger universe that we're sort of building, which is the door, but it is that clock. So the clock has sort of shown up in many of our different live sessions, kind of by accident, but it's become this interesting thread. So this is sort of like the almost the original story of the clock that we're working through here with our two kind of bumbling assistants who accidentally set the whole door thing in motion by not following what they were supposed to do.
So, as Sarah mentioned, the first one was like a negative, which I just shown a moment ago. Then I decided to take that negative and I will show you what it looks like. So I'll make this a little bit more faded so it's not as confusing. So you can see here I took that negative and then started drawing on top of it in a very faded way. And then I got this really cool kind of line drawing. What I'd like to do now is take a bit of what I did with the negative, which was a lot of black with a little bit of white etched out. And I want to figure out what I want to put some more of that black back in, but I want to do it in a much more targeted way. So one way you can call this is spotting the blacks. It's a way for an artist to control the way that the viewer's eye goes. It's also a way to indicate the environment and lighting and form. So it does a lot of things for this composition. And since the way we're going about this is we're doing this in a kind of, I guess, educational kind of way,
Mhm.
but also there's the story element. I'd like to continue doing that educational component, but I'd also like to still continue working on what the story of this is. So, really quickly, all I'm doing right now is just I'm laying in. I would say it's a gray, maybe 50, 60%. It's really black, but I'm just toning the opacity down to about somewhere around here, 50%. And this gives me an idea of like where the light is going to be coming from and some of the texture. And you can also still see the line work on top of it. And that way you're getting a greater sense of like the process. If you were to do this traditionally, as I've mentioned many times before, you could always take tracing paper and take a marker on top of so you have your line work and you just want to kind of like see where that light could be without making a commitment. So you can just put tracing paper on top of your line work and with like a gray or a lighter color, maybe you can take graphite pencil, whatever it is, it's a bit lighter than the actual lines themselves to do a quick mock-up of where you think the light and the form and the environment and all those things are gonna be in this drawing, and I wouldn't work, like, so cleanly that if you decide you don't wanna go in that direction, that you put a lot of time and effort into it. So right now, I'm just kind of, very quickly, as I said, spotting the blacks, even though this is technically a great-looking color.
And I think that's such an important thing, especially for this story, because originally it was the inverse, right? Like it was all black with a little bit of light in it. And the feel really did change a lot when it went to the line drawing. And now it's kind of like finding that in between the clean line drawing and the real darkness that gave it the mood, because the mood of it was where the story came from. We just started with nothing, and as Keith was starting to go through, the story sort of came to life. So now we're starting to kind of get to that spot where you can see some of that mood come back into this one, and it's sort of starting to feel back to that dark and a little bit mysterious vibe that the original had.
So we've talked about the plot of the story, but have we talked too much about like the characters themselves, like where they've come from, or like their personalities?
Well, we've definitely talked about the fact that they are, slightly bumbling, right? Like, that they themselves are not exactly they were the last left in the assistance pile, right? Like, they don't seem like the ones that the wizard really wanted, he got stuck with
Mm,
them, which I think is important because, again, to the plot, if they were, super with it, wanting to impress him, really great assistants, they might not have done what they did, which set everything in motion. So, I think that's an important part about it. We've talked also a lot about, the one holding the light versus the one holding the clock, and the fact that they sort of perceive things differently and have very different functions. And the clock itself being that incredibly heavy piece of wood also helps to push the story forward, because if it was just a small light clock, be like, oh, I can carry it a little further, no problem. But that was part of the reason that we gave for them putting it in the wrong spot just to get it over with.
and what about like where they came from? Are they strangers to this place? Is this place that
I think
they've
that
been to?
they know each other. I feel like they're a team that's kind of through less than ideal means kind of been stuck together. Whether they're friends or brothers or something like that, they seem like they come as a bit of a package deal, which is why they can be a slightly bumbling around each other, because there isn't any of that like, "Ooh, gotta impress the new guy." It's like these 2 these 2 are just out to get some money. They seem like the ones that, they go from town to town, job to job. They will take anything from anybody. One day they're trying to catch a pig in the farm, and the next day they're trying to help a wizard with a clock, right? These guys are the kind of work for hire, what can we make today? And I think that that also helps to give that, let's just get this over with, because this isn't a long-standing employer. This isn't somebody that they really care about. They just want to get it done fast. And that also, from the wizard side of it, it's because this is this job that's a little bit mysterious and he doesn't really want anyone to know what he's doing. So he finds these two somewhat incapable guys and is like, okay, you guys do it because it can fly under the radar. Because I know that, come tomorrow, I might never see you again.
Right. I mean, and also they could have like very easily sold their oh, Twitter, that's weird. They could have very easily sold themselves as being um better than they uh said they were, right? Like maybe somebody vouched for him. Maybe the person that regularly does it is so sick of the wizard, or whoever the guy that hired them. He's like, oh, I'm just going to play this joke on him and say that, oh, I've got these cousins that are great, right? And then in the meantime, the guy's skipping town because he doesn't want to have to deal with the craziness of the wizard. But so like their services could have been sold to the wizard as much greater than they actually were. That's why the wizard, you know, employ them thinking, okay, well, these guys are gonna they come highly recommended, and therefore they'll do the job. They're experts at this, right?
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think that they are a little bit of, you can kind of tell by looking at, they look a little bit like the con artists, right? Where they sell
Hmm.
themselves into different towns, they show up, they do a bunch of odd jobs, they rip some people off, they make their mark, and then they move on to the next place. They're kind of transient. They're kind of up to no good and just looking for the next quick buck. And that's why when this got to be a little hard, right? The clock was heavy, light was going out. It was like, forget it. Let's just dump this and move on, right? They're not tied to this job. They're not worried about the wizard too much other than getting that last little bit of their money so they can carry on with their on their next way.
I mean, there is also a world where the clock is actually messing with them, right?
Which
Because
we
one
did
of the
have, yes.
things
The clock is
I
definitely messing with them for sure, but they don't fight back at all, right? Like, there is no part of them that's, because we have the clock talking to them being like, "Put me here against that wall," right? So it's sort of leading them the wrong way, but they don't fight back. Like, they're not like, "No, we must make sure our boss isn't upset with us." They're like, "Okay, let's put it down. Moving on."
yeah. I mean, yeah, they could be very easily manipulated. I'm just thinking, Like, because one of the reasons why I say that is,
Mhm.
as I'm visually trying to figure out like how to create a composition that's compelling, and where is the light coming from? Well, I have the light coming from, there's like these two big windows where you have some rim light coming here along the edge of the one cutthroat's the robber, whatever you want to call him, his sleeve, and maybe a bit of light coming on the other. But also I was thinking there'd be a light emanating from the face of the clock, and therefore you're going to have, it's almost like it's hypnotizing him, maybe like it's actually telling him to do things, or it's that's what I mean, like when it's causing like havoc,
Mhm.
right? That they don't realize they're being manipulated by the clock, or maybe they do. Maybe this I can't remember what the name of the two gentlemen are. Who's the lighter guy?
Ollie and Bram.
So Ollie, the lighter guy, right? Or
Ollie's the one holding the clock and Bram is the one holding the light.
okay. So maybe you've got like Ollie who's going, Bram, this thing ain't right. Like there's
Yeah.
something off about it, and right, it just keeps on like messing him up. Like he's a much more competent thief, maybe, but the clock's tripping him up. Like that, the heaviness of the clock is like making him awkward, making him
Mhm.
like fall over, and or making him louder than he normally is. In the meantime, Bram's like, you're being really noisy. You're going to wake people up, or you're going to
Yep.
alert the guards or something like that. Something, to create more problems for them that they would normally have. So maybe they are more competent generally, but in
Mhm.
this situation, the clock is causing them to look like these idiots, right?
Well, it could also be too, because we talked a lot about the weight of the clock, that it could be when he first picked it up, it wasn't heavy. And then it started to almost make itself heavier in order to make it awkward to get put where it wanted to go. Right. So it's,
Mhm.
how it's manipulating and be like, I don't know why this feels so heavy. Like this wasn't heavy at all. And now I can barely move my arms. So then when,
Yeah.
Bram's like, here, put it down here. He's like, great. Right. So it's almost like, again, it's finding different ways to get what it wants. So maybe it started trying to talk to them and they ignored it or whatever. So then it shone a bit of light, then it made itself heavy and it was trying different ways. And eventually it won and it got them to do what it wanted them to do.
Yeah, like there could be a scenario where, um, like it's taking everything that is happening to Ollie is like, Bram's like, what are you talking about? And Bram picks up the clock. He's like, it's light. What do
Yeah.
and then it gives it back to Ollie, and he's like, oh, it's like really heavy. And
Yeah.
then it could be like, you know, uh, uh, Ollie's like, it's really dark in here. I can't see anything. And all of a sudden the light shines right on, but instead of like giving him light, it actually blinds him momentarily.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
And so it's,
I was gonna say even what could happen is Bram could turn with the light towards Ollie, and the way that it reflects off the clock, it, like, practically blinds him, right? Like, so it shouldn't have reflected like that. It shouldn't have been able to move light in the way that it did, but it's manipulating the world around it almost, and then it's like, "Well, all I did was turn towards you. I didn't try and put the light right in your face," so it's making them fight amongst themselves, again, to further its goal of them just being like, "Just get this job over with," right? As opposed to them trying to calmly, quietly put this clock down. Um, it's doing all these little things that they don't immediately realize to get what it wants. Like, I like the fact that it's broken, but the face is got a like, it's lit up, like it's glowing or it's
yeah.
reflecting light because it shouldn't, right? It should be just dead.
Well, yeah, it's an inanimate object. How is it doing these things? Like one of the things it could do is it could be like, um, maybe inadvertently, the banister that's falling here, maybe inadvertently, like, when, um, like Ollie goes to like have Bram,
Mhm.
like pick it up to see how heavy it was. Um, Bram's like, it's light, and he gives it back to Ollie, and Ollie goes, whoa, and it smashes the railing or something, right?
Yeah.
And you can have like, Bram going, you're like, what is going on with you? Get away from me, right?
Yeah, and I think that's exactly it, and part of the story too being that the light's starting to go out, therefore they have to keep moving. Again, it's like every time that Ollie moves with the clock and Bram tries to move, it's like the light gets blown a little bit more. So that too is making it hard because once the light's gone, they're pretty much in the dark, so it gets them moving. So I think that I love the idea of, like with the door being a character, that making the clock more than just an inanimate object. Like it's got some power, it's got some personality. It's not just passively waiting to go where it wants. It's actively manipulating these two to do what it wants, and they have no idea.
Yeah, or I mean, they don't have an idea what it is, but I almost get the sense at this point that Ollie's figuring it out very quickly, going, "This
Mhm.
thing ain't right. I want to
Yeah.
be, I want to be out of here." And Bram's like, "This is the score of a lifetime. We've been waiting for this one. What's your problem?" Right, or something like that. So it's causing like havoc between the two of them that normally they're in sync with each other, right?
Mhm.
Or maybe there's a scenario where they weren't quite in sync, and the clock heard them arguing with each other, and the clock is using that as a way to put a wedge between the two of them,
Yeah,
right?
like, you almost imagine it whispering, like, "He said you wouldn't be able to do this," or, "He doesn't think you deserve half the money," or whatever, like, that it's causing them to fight again, and it's telling them, like, "Just put me over here, get me out of those like, your arms," like, that kinda thing, like, it's manipulating them in that way.
Yeah, that would be really cool. Like if it really, if I can just imagine Ollie going, "Did you say something?"
Yeah.
Right, and I'm like, "Shh, like this is be quiet.
Yeah,
There's
and
guards
then
around
the
the
clock's
corner."
like, "See, he never listens to you," or whatever, and
Yeah,
it's just like yeah, I think that again, we talked about it last time, but the pose that Ollie has with the clock just says so much about how powerful it is, how heavy it is, how draining it is, and I think all of the things we're building around it really help to sort of add to that visual that this clock is more than just a heavy object that's annoying to carry.
yeah, yeah. There's more to it, and
Mhm.
it's something that um, Ollie discovers right away, and Graham doesn't quite believe, but because it keeps on making the situation worse and worse and worse. At some point, maybe Graham does realize that there's some that the thing is cursed, and that's why it ends up in the wrong house,
Yeah.
right? Like they just need to get rid of it. Like this thing is like we
Yeah,
can't we
anywhere
can't.
else. Just leave it somewhere
Yep.
that isn't around us. Well, especially too in the story, the original story that we kind of had attached to this, we had them kind of coming up out of the catacombs, which also could have been where this all started happening in there before they came out, right? So it's like this is where they ended up and they're having their little argument about it and the clock's manipulating them, but could you imagine, like, down in the dark catacombs, they're walking through, the clock's getting heavier, the lights going out, they're hearing voices whispering to them. It's like,
Mhm.
"Where is the nearest exit to get out of here?" They get out, and then it becomes like, "Okay, how do we get rid of this thing as quickly as possible?" Because something about it down there was not right.
Yeah, yeah. It starts getting worse and worse and worse,
Mhm.
right? And you can almost see the clock's face glowing, in that catacomb. It almost has like an evil glow to like the two
Yes.
you know,
Like the
the
evil eyebrows.
yeah, it just becomes like evil looking and
Yeah.
and Ollie's like, "Oh, let's get rid of this thing," and he runs past and you
Yeah,
know,
exactly, and then by the time he gets up the stairs, he's like, "Why is it now so heavy? Like, I was running with it, now I can barely walk with it. What is going on?" And then it's like, knocking over the railing, the lights going out. It's just, like, snowballing from bad to worse so, so fast that it just immediately becomes like, "We gotta get rid of this thing." And that's where, that wall looks good, put it down, and it never got to where it needed to be to the wizard's purpose because it got exactly where it wanted to go, which
yeah,
I think is kind of the creepiest part of the whole thing is it wins, it does exactly what it wanted, and all the humans around it were completely manipulated by this clock.
yeah. Well, that's right. Like it may not have. It may have been if it was locked up somewhere, and that may be the other part. It was locked up somewhere because somebody recognized how dark this thing was in reality, and because of how dark it was, it shouldn't have been out, handled by people. And as soon as these people like stole it, it was like, this place. I remember it. I want to go here. This is where I want to go. And they don't realize they're being manipulated to actually go to this place.
Exactly, how letting it be powerful again, like, it's almost like it was, stripped of its powers, it like you said, locked up, locked away somewhere, and then as soon as it was let out, it was like, releasing the evil into the world, and it all was like, "Okay, great. Now that I'm free, I know exactly what I need to do." Because it's definitely got a mind of its own.
Yeah. And now this brings up an interesting thought in my head, which is if we're considering these inanimate objects to actually have like a life essence of some sort of character, well, that means that, let's say, for example, the door, we don't know whether the door is evil or not, or
Mhm,
nefarious or not. We don't know if the clock is like it seems like it could be, but maybe, it isn't. Like we don't know. We don't know what that, but that's the kind of stuff that would be kind of interesting to
mhm,
kind of figure out. Like, is there, how were these uh inanimate objects infused with the souls of demons or people, right?
mhm,
Like we don't know where they came from. And again, we're kind of what's really interesting about all of this is that even though we're opening up this world where initially it was just a door set in the 80s, and we didn't really know a lot about like, that the door itself was something that was more than just like a door,
mhm,
and it became more of like a character. And then all of a sudden we did that illustration and story of it was a single page illustration of the clock, and we
mhm,
threw that into the door as well. And then we're like, well, wait, let's go back in time. And it was inadvertently going, oh, let's put the clock in there again. And then